All right, we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy from Explore the Force. I am currently on vacation, so my background looks a little bit different, a little frazzled, and I've only watched.
Oh, something happened here.
Some issues with my internet, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And written by Charmaine DeGrata, Jen Richards, and Jasmine Florney, directed by Koganada. He also directed episode. He directed episode 3 with a flashback, so he's done both. And we'll get into all. Internet's doing awesome stuff. And introduce yourselves, Thedadvader. You start us off since you're the new one on the show.
What's up, everybody? The Dad Vader, just a nerdy dad who also does Vader in cosplay. That's pretty much it. Pretty simple.
Where can they find you?
Primarily on Instagram. The handle is the Dad Vader. Also working on doing some stuff on YouTube too. Same handle. And then TikTok. I don't even know what I'm doing there, so I'm not going to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's how I feel. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, sir. Appreciate you. Tamia, tell everybody about yourself.
Hi, I live 5 minutes from Disney World, so as you can guess, all my content is theme park related, Disney World, Universal. I do helpful tips and vlogs on YouTube, all on the same username. Instagram is just a hodgepodge of Star Wars and Disney and Universal stuff, and I don't really know what's happening on TikTok either, so just...
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. TikTok's can be a mess. And it's so weird too. Like you do something you think is going to like land perfectly and it gets 200 views, and you do something that's insane. Like just took 5 seconds on CapCut and you get 30,000 views. I'm like, I still don't understand the,
No.
I still don't understand. Hey, we got our, No One Watches RDs on here. Thanks for joining us, No One. It's funny to say that, but why don't Thedadvader, Nerdy Dad, why don't you tell us what your favorite Star Wars movie or show, like give us a little background on your Star Wars, your love of Star Wars and everything like that.
Well, obviously for me, big fan, OG. So when I saw Vader make that entrance, I was like, who's that guy? I need to be him. And then pretty much from that point, just anything Star Wars I've been all about. But for the shows, obviously one of the biggest ones for me was the Obi-Wan series. Seeing Hayden come back to the role and bring a little bit, something different during a fight scene that we hadn't seen yet. And then that dialogue right there just like locked me in. It's like, okay, Disney Plus, maybe some issues, but they've got some stuff going on.
All right, cool, awesome. Tamia, how about yourself? I will say she gets very feisty about Anakin Skywalker. So
He's my man. Don't mess with me, Anakin. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie, and Clone Wars is my favorite show. I watched Star Wars when I was really young, but I want to say I really started getting into it when I watched Clone Wars.
Awesome. Did you watch Clone Wars as it was coming out, or did you binge it like I did?
Oh, I binged it. I don't think I would have survived if I had to watch it a week.
That's what I always wonder about that cartoon, that animated show. I hate to call it a cartoon, but it is a cartoon. It was on Cartoon Network. But week to week, 23 minutes. I mean, I know how frustrated lots of people and myself are getting with these television shows. 7 seasons of that. I think binging might have been the right answer. So, but yeah, I thought that show did an awesome job pulling everybody in. All right, so like I said, we're here to discuss episode 7. Title is Choice, and what are your guys' feelings? Like, people heard me talk about it with our guests and things like that. To me, why don't you start us off? What is your overall, your impression of the Acolyte so far? As in meeting expectations? Is it falling short? Or you want it to be over? Are you excited for the finale? That kind of stuff.
I feel like I'm 50-50 on it. I think the concept is really cool, and I like having more lore and like more story about Star Wars and just learning more about Star Wars in general. I just feel like certain things from the show either don't make sense to me, like certain like decisions that they made don't make sense to me, or there's certain things I just feel like are a little off, but the fight scenes are really cool, so I like that.
Really cool. So, yeah. All right, Dad Vader, what do you think?
Kind of in the same boat, and then kind of going to what you're saying about like binge watching. I think we're definitely spoiled by that. So these weekly episodes, to me, kind of hurt the series in the long run. Um, but I'm kind of at the point where it's 300 plus minutes, and I'm enjoying like less than an hour. Um, Stories kind of mixed up a little bit, don't really make sense, especially this most recent episode kind of went against some of the established character aspects. But yeah, like a 50-50. I mean, my overall rating right now for the show is like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Artie has a good point here. He says Disney has the ideas, they just don't deliver the final product. Always miss the mark somehow. And I feel like, and I hate to say it, I've been trying to be positive, but yeah, last night's they have a lot of work to do for episode 8. I think because I'm in the same boat as you guys, and I've been kind of slowly tilting. There's been, like you guys said, there's lots of things to love about, lots of moments to love. But overall, I think some of it's been a little herky-jerky. And then last night, again, I've only watched it once. It was well past my bedtime. It had been a very long day. So I will give it I'll give it a fair shot and see how we're feeling. But yeah, I think that's kind of, and I think my rating's probably like 6.5 for the whole thing as we're going along anyways. So where would you say that this episode stacks up for you guys? Because it had a lot of stuff. It felt like it was going to be super important to the story. Like everyone who was, including myself and our channel for the most part, and lots of people that have been on, kind of saying, we got to wait and see the rest of the story. We got to see the rest of the story. But we got a big chunk of the rest of the story. Like, how are we feeling now? But, specifically about this episode, did it deliver for you guys?
You can
Yeah.
go.
Well, I think we're both going to be like on the same page. Like, we all knew it was going to be a flashback. We were getting some of the answers, but like, to me, the answers weren't like blowing away. Like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense of why they want to basically not live anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like some of the character aspects, like I was saying, didn't really fit into the story that we've already been told. So yeah, it didn't really hit for me. Oh, did we lose them?
I think we lost him.
Uh-oh. Well, now it's just me and you.
Yeah, I agree though. I think that there were certain things that answered some questions from previous episodes. But overall it was just kind of like a little underwhelming, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys are too. I thought that this was going to be the episode that was going to like shut a lot of people up. And I'm not sure that I did that. Let's see what Artie has to say. Artie says I'm enjoying the Acolyte more than I thought that I would, considering this how the show was received before it even aired. I was expecting a train wreck, but it's really not that bad without being good. That's, yeah. The latest episode, I think, will let down of the series, especially how the witches came to their end and the reasons behind what happened. Was Disney's missing the mark. Yeah, I think you're right. I felt bad for the witches at the end. Yeah, so I feel like it's changed some of the narrative for myself anyways. But so how do we feel? Like, I guess my first thing I think I have on here is there was a little shout out there. These Jedi are on this planet. They're searching Brendok. They really don't know people are living there. But I think that was just a reference to the High Republic, the Great Disaster that kicks off the High Republic. For the book nerds like myself. But Torben, you kind of mentioned it. Like, let's just talk about Torben. All right. Let's dive into Torben. How are we feeling about what we've seen so far? And again, I hate to harp on this. This might be more of a negative views for me tonight than it has been, but I was defending that choice in episode 2 for him to take his own life, depending on how strongly they, how they brought it. So what do you guys think? Was it worth that sacrifice? Should he have been meditating for the last 16 years or whatever?
I think it fits to how he was acting in this episode because he was just a whiny baby the whole time, just being like, I want to go home. It wasn't even like, that's not a Padawan. That's not how Padawans act. That's not how kids who are growing up to be Jedis act, in my opinion. I think that was like very off for a Padawan's character. But for him to then be meditating for 60 years or whatever, like that, I guess it fits with how he was acting in this episode, just being like a baby. Like if he's just gonna keep being a baby his whole life, then yeah, yeah. But like I hated his character in this episode.
It's disappointing too, because I mean, you've got a great actor,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones and 1970. I mean, he's got a resume for being as young as he is, and I feel like they've kind of wasted him. What about you, Dad?
Yeah, I was about to say totally wasted. Yeah, I mean, for me, like if he had done something during the fight scene, like he would have, used the force and like done something to the witches shooting arrows at him, and he's like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have gone that deep into the force to have some type of regret like that. I mean, all he did was whine and complain, and then because of that, he's got the guilt to where he's going to drink poison. Like, was he super guilty because of what happened to the witches? Like, it seemed a really extreme leap from what we saw to what he did. So that's why I'm kind of like, there's a wasted opportunity right there where they could have shown him maybe, be a little bit more ruthless. And then he's like, man, I used the force to kill. Like, I feel horrible, but we didn't see that. So it's hard to make that connection for me right now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I expected more violence, more something. Did he even attack? I mean, I know he fought off some of the arrow bolts and things like that, but I didn't see him deflect any back to anybody or do anything that was other than getting his own butt kicked by Kalnaka, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed out, if I'm being honest, because I really thought he was going to do something and it was going to be like, oh, that's why he did this. Because, self-harm is something that, like, I know in the book, the Rise of the Red Blade, they've recently had that, and there's a couple other things. I mean, they had these like little info dumps about suicide. It's not, it's not the way, and this is the way our characters went. And there wasn't even, and we watched another show, can't remember what it was. It was like on Apple, and they give you these little warnings like, hey, this is happening. And then they just did it for this, and it wasn't, I'm not sure it makes it any better, but yeah, that payoff, I don't feel, so I'm kind of right there with you guys. The payoff didn't. Artie says, totally, Jackie also seemed not to know her place as a Padawan. Yeah, she kind of mouthed off to Yord quite a bit, I thought. I think it was the lie he couldn't live with. Yeah. And I did see one thing, and I'll bring this up, and you guys tell me whether you agreed with it or not, but I don't even know exactly how the witches died. Yeah, nobody does. We'll get into that too. I saw someone say something, I was scrolling through some stuff when we were driving, that the stuff that the witches did to Torben and Kalnaka, because those are the two that kind of went off the rails, right? Like Soul moves on. He's trying to overcompensate for what he feels like he did wrong. And then Endara doesn't seem to be bothered by anything. She's stone cold. But is there something to do with the magic that the witches messed with Torben and just kind of sent him, possibly? And then, of course, Kalnaka, we saw, and this is where more of this information came from, was like, the first time we see Kalnaka, really, he has all those scribblings and those markings. It's kind of like, he's going crazy and he's writing all that stuff on the thing. That satisfy your need for that, or was it poorly explained? I mean, is that an excuse? Can that be used to help defend this show? Like, what do you guys think? I mean, I like that thought. Like, oh, that would make sense if they had like post-traumatic stress from the things that the witches did to them. But if they're not going to explain it, and I'm, most of us, the three of us here, we're not stupid Star Wars fans. You know what I mean? Like, we can pick up little hints and things like that. I don't think they delivered on it. That's what they were trying to do. So what do you guys think? Anything about that? Like,
now that you brought it to light, yeah, like, okay, that does make a connection there. But like you just said, they didn't connect any dots for us. And I mean, I'm not the smartest man alive, but I didn't even think about that. Like that was an afterthought for me. Like that scene where you see the inside of his dwelling, and you see the scribblings. Like totally didn't make any connection there.
Yeah, I feel like they would have to actually touch on it, even if it's like so briefly, but like touch on it for me to be like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense. Because if not, if it's just like up for interpretation, then it's kind of like just like write it better, like make it
Yeah.
like connect the dots, complete the circle. Don't
Yeah,
just leave it open ended.
Yeah, because I feel like most of us can connect those dots typically,
Yeah.
right? I mean, most of us can do that. Like they talk about like spoon feeding us stuff. They don't need to do that, but I love that idea, and I can't remember who I saw it from. I do apologize, but if they didn't develop or he show us that or explain that to us, and I don't know if we can use it. Already says up till episode 7, I think the show is actually going to compete with Andor. Wow, okay. They were slow burning to something explosive. Okay, I see what you're talking about. But really went down. The end just seemed weak. I agree. And our friend Kathleen says this was not written by smart Star Wars fans. Yeah, that could be a problem. There's a lot to connect in one episode, although there are hints there could be 3 seasons, although that was a rumor. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. What did you guys think of like this Snyder cut version of episode 3? So, you sit there and I when I get back from vacation, I'd like to do this. I want to kind of play them by each other and see where they've inserted things and see what's up plays. But obviously I can't do that while I'm on the road. But did you like how they kind of showed us what was happening behind the scenes while they were doing the stuff we've already seen? Was this a good way to do it? Or is this an example of bad writing? Or, how are you feeling about how they presented this episode? Because, I mean, like the first 2/3, or we saw most of it. We were just seeing it from a different angle. And then the last third kind of matched. But what are your thoughts on that? And, was it a waste of episodes? Should this have been episode 3 and we just moved on with our lives? What do you guys think?
I think that they definitely didn't need a whole episode for this. Like, I agree. A lot of it we already knew, and if we didn't know, we could have guessed. I do think there was some important things explained here in this episode, but I feel like we could have explained it with like smaller flashbacks and then kept the story going, because I at least feel like I still don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like there's a lot still up in the air, and I wish I would have rather learned more with mini flashbacks throughout an episode than a whole episode based on a flashback that I already knew 50% of the information.
Yeah, that's fair. Nerdy Dad.
Kind of the same for me. We've already been down this road, and we've got some recycled footage in there as well. And I don't know if that's just a way to save money there, but you got a big budget. Maybe some different angles or something. But yeah, so that was kind of my complaint, is like, we could have meshed maybe episode 3 and this one together, and just called it a day, and then have some more screen time for Soul to be doing some other stuff. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely feel like, and it was an extended episode. It's a little bit longer than the other ones too. It's like, I didn't get much out of it. So missed opportunity.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw the runtime pop up, and then I could have just fast forwarded it for the first 25 minutes and not missed anything. So we got thoughts on the Night Witches from this angle now too. So we've got Night Witches. Sorry, these witches. I guess maybe we're just programmed to say Night Witches every time we see witches. The Brendock witches, the Thread, the Coven of the Thread, if you will. What were your takes on them? I mean, did you lose respect, gain respect? Are you more interested in them, less interested in them? Like, how are we feeling about the stuff that and this can be, from season or from episode 3 to episode 7, like all of it. We don't have to necessarily go in order, but what were your thoughts on, I mean, that magic where they like dissipate and like we're spreading it, but I'm like, what were they doing?
They're just airing it out. You get a little musty on that planet.
Yeah, I don't. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on them? Do you feel bad for them now? I mean, I don't know. Is there some sympathy for the Tamia?
I don't think my opinion's changed. I think that they just showed more of them, but like, I feel like they showed them in the same light. Personally, I felt the exact same way that I felt in the previous episode about it. Like, I don't know. The whole dissipating thing. I didn't understand what was happening. Like, what was the goal? And I don't know. But I don't think that it overall changed my opinion of them at all.
I was a little curious on when the mother started to do it, and then May started doing it as well. Like, was she trying to do it herself, or did the mother cause like that energy to like come out of her?
I
I
feel
was
like
kind of
the mom was doing it.
yeah.
At least I think. I feel like the mom was like trying to get them both to disappear. I don't know. She's trying to take her.
Then I was thinking like transfer of like energy to her, like give her more power, or like. But then I like later on when they basically like teleported themselves out of there, that's when I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's what she was trying to do, escape. Um, but yeah, I mean, leaving the episode, this episode 3 and this one, I still was like, meh, the Star Wars characters, but I didn't feel anything towards them. Um, the only cool thing I thought was the like collective mind, maybe, of when they were chanting and controlling. That was kind of different and cool to see, but I mean, kind of left it just like meh.
Yeah, like I do feel like they are not supposed to be like the bad guys. Like they're supposed to be like they were just chilling, doing their own thing, and then these Jedi came in and just basically flipped their whole world upside down. So like I in that sense I'm like, okay, yeah, they were supposed to be like the good guys who were just minding their own business and then they were like trying to defend themselves. So in that aspect, like I see that. But
Yeah, I mean, because she even says I was going to let her go
yeah.
when after he runs her through. But then I also felt like, so these twins are the exact same person, because there was some stuff
Yep.
there too.
Yep.
So we can just discuss that too while we're here. We're
Yeah.
discussing this whole witchcraft and the thread. So are we getting answers to that? Because it seems like anyone who knows what's going on, they're all dead now, except for possibly Mother Coral, right? I didn't see her get. I honestly, I can't remember from last night if she got taken out completely. But I mean, I feel like almost that we have more questions about the twins now. And if there's only one episode left of this one season that we're going to get, how are they going to wrap all this up? But, I don't know. It was kind of bonkers to me. Artie says, I have an interest in witchcraft and sorcery. I really like the witches. Would have liked to see more of their powers. Yeah, they can block and they can push and they can almost evaporates. Did anyone notice the cloak mail in the background in the scene? It looked like there was 2 males with witches when Soul first entered the fortress. I did not notice that. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't
No.
notice that. I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that when we get done here. That's a good shout. I've compared Brendock to Waco. Yeah, that's real world crazy. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for the witches. Like, I want to know more. It feels like most of them are gone now, so I
Yeah.
just don't understand what.
I'm gonna guess that Coral's still kicking. Like we saw her dissipate, and then I didn't see her in the background when they all took their
Yeah.
nap.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I liked their explanation of May and Osha being literally the same person, just two, because then at least that explained the part where Soul couldn't tell.
oh
I
yeah,
guess in the beginning of like he found out over time, unless it just wasn't explained or like spoon fed, but he knew the whole time and was just kind of hiding it. If he wasn't hiding it and couldn't tell, then that would be good enough reasoning to why he wouldn't. Because if not, like he had such a strong connection to Osha that it would be like, come on, like he wouldn't be able to tell that that's May. Like, let's be real. So I don't know. At least I feel like they kind of explained that part.
let's talk about what you just said because I have that written down. Did you believe Soul's connection to OSHA right off the bat? And did you ever feel like those girls were really ever in danger? Because, like, is that one of those things where we know they're not really in danger, or we at least I didn't feel like there were anything was bad that's going to happen to those girls, right? They were just moving up the ranks of the witchcraft. Do you believe in Soul's connection? And did you think that did they sell it that they were really in any kind of danger until the Jedi showed up and made everything go crazy?
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say definitely don't feel like they were in danger. Like they didn't like do a good job of making it seem like that. And then with Soul, that just seems so weird that like within 45 seconds of meeting this young girl, he's like, "That's my Padawan right there." Like that was kind of
and
odd.
they said that, and it was like 10 seconds earlier, and Dara's like cutting them up like, "This is why you don't have a Padawan and I do."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how all that works between Master and Padawan, so I don't know if there is like a instant connection or not, or like they feel something in the Force. I have no idea. So I feel like it could be true that he did feel a connection with Osha, but I do think that they were not in danger, and I think that he took that opportunity, and he was like so desperate for a Padawan that I think he just took advantage of the situation and basically manipulated it so that he would get a Padawan, which in that sense is kind of like, okay, so Soul is like dipping into the dark side a little bit. Like, what are we doing? Which I thought then was interesting because then it started painting the Jedi or like Soul as the bad guy and then the witches as like the good guys.
It was kind of changing the narrative a little bit, I thought.
Yeah.
So,
Which I saw something where somebody was saying that he's already slipped towards the dark side. He may not recognize it like within himself. And that when they were talking about them being the same person but split, they were saying that, you know, one's the light, one's the dark. And that's why he instantly went to Osha, because he felt more of a light side and his dark pool. That's the connection, like that was instant for them. I thought that was the interesting take. But again, that's us fans thinking about it. Would like to have seen it from the show, but speculation.
I mean, yeah, and we'll get to that. We can talk about if they're going to be able to tie all this stuff up and make it all make sense. One of the big things, and one of the things I was kind of negative about going into this, is I wanted more Kalnaka, so we had to wait 7 episodes. Was the payoff there? Was it what you wanted to see? How did you feel? Because I mean, this is the Jedi Master, right? I mean, and he gets. I mean, it did look like the entire Witch Coven had to jump him, you know, mentally had to jump him. But because I thought that part was pretty cool when she's like, "No, not him," and then Kalnaka lands and he's all pissed off and stuff. So, what do you guys think about that whole scene, that whole thing? And you can kind of like this will kind of lead us into Indara next, obviously, because of how she handles the situation. But talk about Kalnaka, talk about that fight scene. Was it worth 7 episodes of, you know, anticipation? Tamia says no. Go ahead, Tamia. Go ahead, Tamia.
No, I don't think so. I wish I had gotten more of all of them, honestly. I feel like I didn't get a lot from any of them, but specifically Kalnak, I feel like we got the least amount. Like he literally just shows up and gets immediately taken over already, so he's not even himself. And like it is cool to see that like he had a super, like he was super powerful, obviously, because and so strong, but like all that for him to just be taken over and then him to fight everybody and then that's it. Like I feel like it wasn't enough. And then I also don't understand how all the witches died. Like I genuinely thought they were just passed out, like they were just tired. I didn't know they like
sleepy time.
Yeah. Forever sleepy time. But like I didn't realize they all like died. I don't understand how they died. Like I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's actually part of my Indara questions that I have coming up. But what about you?
I mean, anytime you get to see a Wookiee swing a lightsaber, sweet. But the episode, like, definitely could have used a lot more of that. And I think that's kind of what we were going to say. Like, you had, was it 43-minute runtime on this one?
Yeah.
And we only got that little sliver. And that's kind of where I'm like, the 43 minutes, like, 3 of them I really enjoyed because, you know, Wookiee swinging a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then obviously brute strength. He had the power. He was swinging hard hits. So then for him to get taken out Trinity style, like just swing around and then put my hand on you, like that felt really rushed. I would like to have seen them duke it out some more and like really put some stress on them. But they wasted a lot of the episode for the flashback stuff. So
yeah, that's probably a valid point. Let's see. We got here. Yes, that was one of the few good parts. The twins that were the same person. May did mention sacrifice when she was tested, and I did hear that. She's like, yeah, you know, Mom said it was about sacrifice, but I thought that meant more about like your individuality is, more about your freedom. But I don't know, maybe she was talking something a little bit stronger. Soul's instant attachment was quite ridiculous, and that's the ignition to all that follows. It just seems a little lazy. Artie, this is all from Artie, of course. Jackie pointed out his attachment to his previous Padawan was a dark side trait. He also seemed very attached to Jackie, and the hug he gave May when she thought he was Osho seemed weird. Yeah, he's kind of losing his marbles a little bit. Maybe they passed out to Kool-Aid, another Waco. So yeah, I think this episode I'm kind of frustrated that I have to be is I'm not sure. Again, I want to watch it a second time before. I usually get to watch it, twice possibly. But let's talk about Indara. So we got more of her. Everyone was super pissed, and she dies right off the bat, which I thought everyone realized she was probably going to die right off the bat. But then we finally come back around to the strong acting of Carrie Ann Moss. What did you think about her character? She seemed stone cold Mace Windu, just nothing, Jedi, Jedi Council. We're not doing this. But then it all hit the fan, and she's like, all right, here we go. And also, does anyone listen to the Jedi Council when it comes to training Padawans? Like, why do they have a council? Everyone just does whatever they want. So what are you guys' thoughts on Indara? And, of course, to kind of talk about that, too, I wrote in my notes, it just says, did she kill all those witches, or is this some kind of Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi, where they weren't as strong as she was in the Force, and them fighting back took them out, I guess, because she must be one hell of a master to have knocked out, 13, 14 witches?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that could have been a scene right there, like how as we saw Mother go into Torben's mind, like we could have seen it flipped and see her like duke it out with 13 witches in Kalmaka's head and be like, that's why they all just dropped down. And then I don't know if they made it like a connection. I thought I saw the connection of like a hive, like they all have the same mind. We're thinking the Borg now, take out the queen, they're all just done. So I kind of like thought that was going on, but I like to have seen like, and then like express like, oh dang, she's like super powerful in the Force. Like that wasn't there either. So still more questions on that for me.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think I like that they showed her more. But if she's so dang strong, like there's no way she would have been killed by May. Like that is not making sense to me. Like if she's so powerful and she's so strong, like that beginning fight in like the first episode where she got killed, like come on. I think that's a flaw, and I don't think that she should have been killed that easily.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because it does kind of flip around. Because I mean, think about like if she was that powerful then during that 16 years ago, and we see that. And I don't know if you guys picked up on this or not, but like Soul was not strong enough to save both girls 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like he could barely. I mean, he really even couldn't save either one of them. He had to physically grab a hold of Osha. But then, of course, in episode 1 or 2. He was able to grab her with the Force and yank her up and hold her there. And it shows how much he's grown. So Indara would be even stronger. So to me, that's probably an excellent point that it's not really, things aren't lining up as well as maybe they should be. So that's kind of a bummer. Artie says, I'm thinking that maybe these Jedi are on a fool's errand, as they may be not the sharpest Jedi, and they were sent on a 7-month mission to keep them out of trouble or something. Yeah, it is problematic. Devo Bronx says horrible writing. I kind of have to say yes to that. It breaks my heart a little bit because I've been holding out hope. But I mean, what are they going to do in episode 8 that's going to fix all this stuff?
I'm curious on the process of like writing. Was it like, okay, you're going to do these episodes, and then they broke off and then wrote, and then everybody did that and came together, and they're like, oh crap, how do we get this to come together? Or was it like one big collective, round table and everybody's spitballing? Because some episodes, like you're saying, don't make that connection as far as like, how did you go down so easily if you just wiped out witches like that? I mean, I did like in the episode where it's kind of like she knew because she was going to stop that blade to save an innocent life that she was probably going to take a blade. But at the same time, if you're that powerful in the Force, you'd been able to deflect anything at you, so it doesn't tie together.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree.
I just, I don't know. I keep coming back to I need to watch it a second time, but I don't know if it might just get worse as far as after I've watched it a second time and had chance. Because I mean, I was taking these notes, just kind of scanning through the episode. But are the Jedi flawed? And is it okay that we're focusing so strict? Because I mean, these guys really screwed up. Like this was a pretty bad example of Jedi. Is this? We've seen the Jedi in their glory days. You think about the original trilogy, all we get are stories. We never really see the Jedi. You get to see Luke Skywalker. And then, we go to the prequels and they're kind of falling apart. They're blinded by their own hubris, as everyone who's ever watched a Rian Johnson movie will say. I've never heard that word hubris until they said it 47 times in that movie. And it seems like it keeps popping up in Star Wars now. But is this just how it's going to be? And this is leading. I mean, I know this is supposed to lead up to the fall of the Jedi in the prequel. Sorry. How are you guys feeling about the Jedi right now? Like, I mean, are you disappointed? Are you like, oh, this makes sense? This is a bureaucratic organization. Things are going to go wrong. But
I think it's okay for the Jedi not to be perfect. Like they're not gonna be perfect. So I think it's totally fine for them not to be completely perfect. But there's times when like they went after Khmer and all of them just all at once in a line. Like you're gonna tell me all these highly trained Jedi all just decided all at once, let's just run with our swords up in the air at this bad guy. Like that's the best strategy. There isn't like a okay, yeah, like you go this way. I know I'll go this way. We'll surround him, like something. It's just all like like medieval war. Like
it
so
did seem.
it's just like so I just feel like certain things like in the writing for this show are just not matching up with just like common sense kind of things that they would be doing because like again they can be not perfect but I don't know, I just some things are just so outlandish to me that I'm like this is, and I know it's a fake world but still I feel like some things are just so
Well,
outlandish and like wrong. I'm like this is weird.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Like we've seen it in the prequels, like whenever they faced off like Dooku, like the young one took off running, but Obi-Wan was like, no, we got to do this like smart, we got to be strategic. Like that's how I think masters would have thought seeing somebody whip out a red lightsaber and they're like, whoa, wait a second, not like let's get this mofo. Like that's not how the Jedi's do it. So yeah, there's certain things that just don't mesh well. I mean, individuals were all flawed. So I think that's a good point that we're seeing some of that flaws. And then obviously in a big group where you're pretty much the boss around the galaxy, like you're going to start seeing chinks in the armor and like, stuff's going to happen. So, I mean, I'm okay with where it's going, but execution wise, I think they could do a little bit better.
Yeah, I was a big proponent, and one of my arguments trying to defend this show was like, Jedi are going to be flawed. Like nobody's perfect. But no one seems to be stepping up. Like again, we have one episode left. Who knows how this is going to finish? But it's not looking good for the Jedi here. You guys talked of binging Clone Wars. I think Acolyte might run a little better in one hit rather than the short weekly segments. Yeah, but it's still, if it doesn't connect, because I always find more holes in shows when I'm binging them because you just saw something or you saw something 3 episodes ago. Like, well, no, they did this and this. Why is it here? So, I mean, I do agree for the story, though. It may work better. Andrew says lots of contrivances. Yes, there's been some issues there. And Jackie, too, like you, to me, just like you said, too, with the lightsaber, she's whooping his butt. Then she just runs with her arms wide up in the air. And like, I'm like, you just completely lost your marbles.
Defense?
Yeah. Artie says not every cop is Serpico, and there are fake or corrupt Jedi in the EU. So I like seeing the Jedi in a lesser light. Palpatine speaks of Jedi corruption and servitude to the Republic. Yeah, I can see that, and I was kind of hoping for some of that, but I mean, like to me, like you said, like all 9 of those, or I think there were 8 Jedi, and they all just line up and they're gonna like, it's like the Ghostbusters, like get them, that ghost at the beginning of the first Ghostbusters, like
Yeah.
you expect that kind of stupidity from. Yeah, second viewing often breaks, or yes, it can, that's for sure. All right, so I think I've got like 1 or 2 more questions here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Is there anything for you guys? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that was like blaring to you in this episode before we get into some of the next stuff?
Yeah, so the 2 mothers, one is kind of like the good one and one is the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have May and Osha. So what do we think is like, do we think there's like a significance to that? Like maybe the bad one raised May and then the good one spent more time with Osha. Like, what do we think is kind of like the connection with that? Because like I get there, if it's the same person, essentially just like 2 people of the same person, then there's a good side and a bad side. So like that makes sense. But then also, so like that's part A, and then part B to my question is, do we also think that there's potential for Osha to turn bad and for May to turn good? Okay, go.
Wow. Yeah, I see. That's the thing too, is like they both, because May's been real flip floppy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Was it episode 4 when they're tracking them down on Kofar, and she realizes, hey, my sister's alive, I don't need to do this anymore, and she was just done.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like all about like love, and I don't know, maybe we have these 2 sisters mixed up too, because she's all about love, wanting to be with family and all this stuff, and Osha's like giving the witches, her sister. And I've seen this as a teacher, I've seen twins, like one twin's really into being a twin and the other twin's like, dude, I need to be myself, but do we have them mixed up? Because I mean, is May the dark side and Osha's the light side? Like maybe we have it mixed up. I don't know though. As far as the mothers are concerned and their connections, I mean, it's hard to tell because they haven't given us. I don't think they've given us enough information, but I do think that we could be in for the old switcheroo next episode. Like I think one, or they're going to combine into one, and become this ultimate power, or reach the convergence, or whatever the hell it is that they were doing, the ascension, and they're going to rise to become one. I don't know. What about you, the Dad Vader?
Just piggyback on that right there. So yeah, I'm not going to say that parents have favorites, but is that what we're kind of seeing? Like, are we trying to paint that picture? And then I think that goes right into a flip here. Like, we think one is good, the other one's bad. But if you look at like some of the character traits, like, the passion and stuff, like the Jedi's, they have passion, right? Well, we see the passion there with May, and then the reserve, stay in the shadow, don't really do much, more of a dark side thing. We see Osha kind of doing that. So, like, not 100% sure what's coming. I mean, obviously they could wow us this last episode and hit us with something cool like that. But there's so much still out there that needs to be resolved. And like, is this, to me, like, that the twins are obviously the main part of the story. But then, like, what about, was it Quaimar and the Quaimar?
Chimera, yeah.
Quaimar, and then Soul, like, where's that story gonna go to? Like, and then obviously, are we gonna lead into leaving the door open? Are we gonna see his master show up, or there's a bunch to be resolved, and I don't know if we're gonna get it.
Yeah, that's, yes. I mean, the sisters are confusing. I feel like, how are they gonna wrap this up in one episode? I don't know. I mean, so Andrew says we were hoping for that, just a less reductive portrayal. Ariel says Star Wars is dead. I hope not. And I would disagree with that, because we were just at that convention in Rebel Scum Con. That's kind of where we met. And there were tons of families, tons of little kids dressed up in Star Wars characters. I mean, it brought joy to my heart to see all that because of all the stuff. I don't think Star Wars is dead. I think maybe it's hit a little speed bump. But as far from being dead, I think. But the twins were merged like Station and Bill and Ted, or the Gelflings and Dark Crystal. Together they bring balance to the yin and the yang. light in the dark. Yeah, but I mean, so to me, what do you think? Like, are they gonna? This kind of leads me into my kind of wrap the show up. But those are excellent questions. I don't know if we have enough information to answer them, not enough to satisfy you. But do they merge back together to be one? I mean, what kind of craziness is happening next week? And that's kind of where my question goes: is do you guys have any predictions for next week? And on that, will they be able to wrap this all up in one episode? Because like you bring up an awesome question, and unless we're going to get a 45-minute exposition from Mother Coral sitting down and being interviewed by the Jedi about how they were created, I don't think we're going to get an answer to that. So what do you guys think? Like, predictions for next week? Are the twins, they're going to wrap this up? Like, are they going to be able to wrap it all up? So ruin episode 8 for me. Tell me exactly what's going to happen next week is what I want. I want you to ruin it for me.
Let me get the script real quick. No, I've been chatting with people and just talking up a storm here. Like I think there's got to be a ton of action. We've got to see a bunch of people go down. I'm thinking that now that I'm thinking about it, like the coming together, like talking about sacrifice. Is there going to be a sacrifice that they both sacrifice themselves for something? And then at the end of the day, I think to kind of tie things back up to episode 1, Phantom Menace, where we don't think the Sith exists. I think anybody that's involved in the story is going to be wiped out. The blame's going on Soul for turning to the dark side or something, and the real master is going to stay in the shadows, but we might see him peek out, throw a deuce, and then go back in the shadow. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts there.
Do they wrap it all up though? I mean, are we going to be satisfied?
No. I think they're going to leave it open. I think they'll do enough to kind of like close the chapter, but it's going to be open still for possible season 2 if they're going to try to do it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they've talked about they wrote the story so it could finish, but they have left it to a point where they could do more, from the Leslie Headland stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This kind of has like the Last Jedi vibes, where like, hey, he gets 3 more movies, and then we see nothing from him. So to me, what do you think? So predictions, what's going to happen with the twins? Are they going to be able to wrap this all up in one episode?
They're definitely not going to be able to wrap it up. I definitely am going to be left wanting more 100%. I don't care what you say. You can't put a conclusion to all this in one episode. And I know you're not going to give me a 2-hour episode, and that's really what I'm going to need. So it's not going to happen. I think they're going to reveal Chimere's master officially, but I feel like we already all know who it is. I don't know. I think that this whole season has been very cookie cutter. So a lot of the stuff that I was guessing for the next episodes had I was like, okay, yeah, I knew that. Cause I just feel like it's very cookie cutter. It's very obvious, it's hidden stuff, but then it's kind of okay, well, it's obviously this. And Chimera was obviously that guy. It was really easy to tell. I feel like I wasn't shocking or anything. So I don't think that the 2 twins are going to merge into one. I don't really know how they would, how that would happen, what the science behind that would be.
Yeah.
But I do think they might end up either one's going to defeat the other, or they're going to come together and be sisters. I think there's definitely going to be big battle, fighting scenes, which I'm excited for. But yeah, I think overall, I don't really think it's going to end in a way where we're all going to be okay, this all made sense. This was all worth it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking with death, that might be the way that they merge, a sacrifice of one to the other, and
Gotcha.
That would be the merge back to the Force or the thread.
Interesting.
Kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe if they were to do something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I could see that.
Yeah, something's gonna happen. I don't think both of those twins are making it out of the end of this episode. I think you guys are right though. The Ki-Adi-Mundi stuff, and there hasn't been a Sith for 1,000 years or whatever. That has to be wrapped up. So all these guys have got to die. I kind of think, and I'm not sure how exactly it would work, but I'd love to see Tenebrous and Plagueis show up and just smoke this fool at the end, and then they go and they find Chimera lying oh, okay, there are no Sith, no one's seen one. Vernestra just kind of brushes it under the rug, and everyone moves on with their lives. But yeah, I don't I am dumbfounded by how they're going to wrap up. I mean, it really wasn't that much of a mystery. Like, this whole thing was sold as a mystery. People are killing Jedi, and we don't know why. And that was wrapped up in the first 7 minutes of the show. We found out why she was doing it.
Yep.
So it's this big. If there's not a big reveal at the end of this, then, like, to me, like you said, it's pretty cookie cutter, which is insane because they have a lot of big time writers on this show that I feel should have known better. And been able to kind of beef things up a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of bummed. I'm nervous for next week. I've been optimistic. I'm excited, but I'm real nervous because I've been, like most of we try to be positive and not say some of the things that some people are saying. But if it's not good, it's not good. Like, I mean, there's just no way around it. So, which will be disappointing, but. I got one last question for you. I actually got two last questions for you. Two last questions. Was it self-defense or all their fault for the Jedi? And how many pips are you giving this episode out of 10 pips? What are you doing? So I've seen something where people are arguing that this was self-defense, but I mean, me personally, it looked like the Jedi kind of caused 99% of the issues here in this episode. So give me that. Give me your pip count, and we'll sign off.
I don't think that I think the Jedi are in the wrong. Like, they caused all of it, and I think specifically Torben but more specifically Sol, I think, was like the person who caused all of this. So yeah, I don't agree with the whole self-defense thing, and I give it like 3 pips. I don't know.
Whoa, 3 pips.
I did not.
No, that's fine. No, that's perfectly fair. 3 pips out of 10. I understand. Yeah, and
I want to love it. I want to love everything that comes out. I just I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I also can't just say this was all great, like when it's so realistically not. I think also it might be that, and I don't know if this is true, but maybe writers are scared to. Like, all these good writers, right? Like, why is it so cookie cutter and all this stuff? Like, I wonder if they're scared in a sense because there's such a huge fan base for Star Wars. Like, I wonder if they're scared to kind of be more creative or reach out and do something else because they would get the immediate shutdown and their careers would be over in a millisecond if they do anything so wrong. I feel like that.
They didn't do
I don't know if they're just scared. I don't know. But I feel like we need to be creative. We need we want new cool stuff to come up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point.
For me, if you're gonna go with the self-defense, you're gonna need a really good lawyer because yeah, they are totally at fault here. Definitely no self-defense there. Blame the Jedi for everything wrong in the galaxy. And then as far as the score there, I've been torn on that. But I'm going to settle with a 5 because I left this episode just feeling like, meh, didn't love it, didn't hate it, just here. So I'm going to give it 5.
All right, that's pretty good. That's in the middle there. Artie says the twins' origin is the real mystery. The murder is the plot driver. Okay, I hope you're right. I hope we get answers to that. The Jedi were aggressors and covered that stuff up. Yeah. Oh, and we better call Sol. Oh, Sol's gonna represent himself. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. No way it was self-defense. I wanted it to be real bad, but I guess I'm coming around to the fact that some of the writing. I've liked this show a lot until last night. I've been a pretty staunch supporter of it. Thought, oh, they're gonna really stick this landing. It's gonna be awesome. Everyone's gonna shut up. But I feel like, I'm gonna give it 5.5 pips because you can pull his head off and pull him apart. So I'm going to give it 5.5 pips so it passes. Well, no, still a D. But yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so guys, I really hope that, like you said, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Why don't you guys go ahead and one more time tell everybody where they can find you so they can get out there, they can subscribe to you, they can like your stuff, they can start following you. And if you are watching, if you're watching it later, please hit the like button and subscribe to explore the Force. We do these live shows. I know Jack will be on live tomorrow doing some things. But so go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you guys one last time. Tamia, go ahead.
It's at Timeasmiles on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
All right.
And then for me, I'm at Thedadvader on Instagram, YouTube, and kind of TikTok.
And he's got the funniest. I almost spit out my drink when I saw him walk by. Cosplay where he gets his name. Watch his stuff. Check out Tamia's stuff. If you're going to Disney anytime soon, you need to check out her stuff because she's got lots of cool things on there that you guys can watch. So what do we got? Artie says, "Me too. This was the first series from Disney that sparked my interest." He's not motivated for anything else. Enjoyable discussion. Sorry for spamming your chat, Artie. It's all right. It's fun this way because we know you can see things and say things that maybe we're not thinking of. But again, so for all of us, one last time, thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you guys next week. We have spoken. All right, and then